Seattle's new socialist mayor, Katie Wilson, she is going to war with ICE. What's that going to look like? Let's get into it. Here we go. Okay, we're going to go through this a couple of times. First time, we're just going to watch it through. Then we're going to do some context of what's actually gone on. Then we're going to watch it again. Here we go.
Yesterday, armed ICE agents in an unmarked vehicle detained 3 North Seattle neighbors at Evergreen Washelli Cemetery. I am furious at the federal government's abuse of power. It is unacceptable to kidnap people who are simply going about their lives. There is no place for this in Seattle. This latest abuse comes on the heels of the murder of Renee Nicole Good in Minneapolis by federal agents. Renee was a poet, a caring neighbor, and a mother. Someone with a family whose community is now grieving unimaginable loss. These are not abstractions. These are real people, real families, and real harm. I know many people in our community are frightened and outraged about the way ICE and other federal enforcement agencies are being deliberately deployed across the country to intimidate and harm our communities. I am heartbroken and outraged too. This moment demands action. Here's what we're doing. Seattle is a welcoming city. We already have laws in place that forbid our local police from aiding ICE in most instances. The police will adhere to these laws. That's an important step. But it's also true that we have limited authority with regard to the actions of federal agencies. And I know that our existing laws are not enough to keep people safe. So I'm working with Police Chief Barnes, City Attorney Evans, immigrant rights groups, and local leaders to identify every possible legal argument, public resource, and creative tool we can use to keep the people of Seattle safe. This will take all of us. I urge you to sign up for the Washington for All ICE mobilization alerts. And don't stop there. I encourage you to raise your voices and demand that every elected official does what they can to actually protect the people who make our neighborhoods home. This is a scary situation, and situations like this are when we show ourselves who we are and what we believe. Here in Seattle, we practice solidarity. Everyone should be safe in their homes, in their workplaces, and in their city. My message to our immigrant neighbors: this is your city. You should be safe here. And I'm determined to make it that way.
All right. Well, that's certainly a perspective, isn't it? That is a perspective. All right. Now we're going to look at some footage from the ICE agent's perspective. This is cell phone camera footage that the ICE agent who did the shooting in the Renee Good incident in Minneapolis earlier this week. Now, we've seen all kinds of different perspectives, but we haven't really seen what was happening up in front of that car up until now. Let's take a look at that.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at it. It's not your thing. I'm not mad at it. That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen. Don't fucking back me. You saying we're nuts. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy.
Out of the car. Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
Oh. There you go.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you.
Why are you interfering with an ICE operation? Like, what are you doing? In what world do you think it's a good idea to monkey around with a law enforcement effort? Literally, F around and find out. I mean, this is a terrible idea. And I'm surprised we haven't had more incidents like this. Because if you've ever gone to one of these rallies or watched these legal observers, it is an absolute shit show. And I believe the policing in the United States, not only Department of Homeland Security, ICE, actual police officers, they have really ratcheted down their, behavior towards these people and become way more tolerant. This lady drove her car into an ICE agent and he capped her. It's a difficult way to learn a lesson. Let's keep going here.
That's okay. We don't change our plates.
Why does the cop need to show his face? Why does the agent need to show his face? You know what I mean? And she's complaining because the officer is going back to take a look at the license plate to get the license plate on the car in case she takes off. That's pretty understandable, considering they've got a deportation effort going on of a criminal illegal in the neighborhood on this street. That's what they're doing. They are trying to make this street safer and the community more safe. And instead, you've got absolute knuckleheads like these women just monkeying around in the street. And then, oh my gosh, what happens? Oh, you know,
Every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking veteran. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Do you think she's going to regret that? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. He's doing his job. He is doing his job. And that's what these people are they're not clued in. And we're going to talk about the last time that this agent was involved with something that goes sideways. And it is horrific. And the type of individual that they're going after, they're not scooping up just innocent folks, right? That is not the case. They're going after people with deportation orders and they're criminal illegals. As simple as that, as plain as that. And yet these people are so back-assward in their minds. They're like, oh, we need to keep this community safe so we can have all these criminal illegals stay in the community. That is their goal. Bottom line is, these are all folks that are allegedly going to vote for the Democratic Party, and they don't want them to get deported. That's the big ruse. That is the massive ruse. It has nothing to do with them caring about public safety. Because they clearly do not. They're on the opposite end of public safety. And so is Katie Wilson of Seattle. You know, let law enforcement do their job.
Listen, former fucking veteran. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car.
Okay, so what do you see? Agent says, get out of the car. Get out of the car. And what does the one woman do? And now we know that these women were married, I believe, wife and wife. She literally goes to get in the car. You ever seen that Chris Rock video where he says how not to get your ass kicked by the police? Do whatever they say. Don't do the opposite of what they say, which is exactly what this woman did here. And she is now dead because of it. Cop said, get out of the car. Why didn't she just do that? Why was she driving away? And why did she drive into the police officer? Well, again, look around and find out. And unfortunately, she had to learn that lesson the hard way. Let's keep going. Oh! Hear that sound? That is her car hitting the ICE agent and him shooting through the windshield and killing her because she is trying to run him over. Simple as that. I mean, it's right there. That's the angle that we've all been waiting on. Anything else, I mean, you can just tell that there's impact. There is impact there. And we've seen it from other angles, but not quite this close. Let's watch that again. A lot of talk saying that she didn't hit the guy. She hit the guy. She swiped him. She swiped him. She took off. She backed up. She took off and she hit him. He was out in front of the car. And then you see the car and in other videos, you hear the as she literally drives into a car because she's been shot because the ICE officer, his life was in danger. She was trying to run him over. And that is, unfortunately, that is what happens when you go up against law enforcement. And in these big blue liberal cities, these agents, put their lives in danger like this one. Jury convicts undocumented immigrant of dragging ICE agent with his vehicle. That was our officer just there. That was our law enforcement right there doing the shooting. He got drugged 300 feet down the road by a child rapist. Yeah, those are the kind of people that ICE agents are trying to detain, deport, and get out of the country. And yet you've got people like Katie Wilson saying, they're just innocent folks. Well, let's read what this last incident looked like. Agents tried to arrest Munoz for being in the country illegally. He had a conviction in 2022 for literally multiple times sexually assaulting his stepdaughter. Not a good dude, but hey, let's let him go anyway because, why not? Greatest concept ever. And that's what you're seeing repeatedly. But if you listen to the left-wing narrative on this, they're just, they're outstanding, honorable family guys that are getting deported. No. Munoz didn't comply. ICE agent dragged 300 feet by Munoz vehicle. ICE agent treated for cuts. He had 20-something stitches. It was just terrible. Okay? Here is who he was chasing down. Robert Carlos Munoz, Guatemala, a 40-year-old Guatemalan national illegally present in the U.S., was convicted in December of 2022 in Hennepin County District Court of felony fourth-degree criminal sexual conduct for repeatedly sexually abusing a minor. The offense involved repeated sexual abuse of a minor victim, leading to his felony conviction. Upon arrest, ICE issued a detainer, but local authorities, like Katie Wilson, released him without honoring it, allowing him to remain free until the June 2025 immigration arrest attempt, when the officer, the guy who did our shooting, got drugged 300 feet and had his arm, opened up. As an undocumented immigrant with this prior sex offense, Munoz, Guatemala faced an administrative warrant for deportation. That is who these ICE agents are going after. There isn't this, they're going after innocent people within our community. This guy was having sex or whatever with his stepdaughter, who was 16 years old, multiple times. So who's being protected here? Is the community being protected by taking ICE out of the equation? Hell to the no. That is absolute garbage. Garbage. Nonsense. We're reading about it right here. It's not that hard to do. Here is a guy who takes to Pound Town his 16-year-old stepdaughter against her will. And so you want to try and prevent ICE from taking this guy off the street and deporting him? It's absolute insanity. It is absolutely backwards. It makes zero sense. The narrative is just so wonky. Court records reveal details of ICE agent's previous dragging incident. The agent who shot a woman in Minneapolis on Wednesday was pulled about 100 yards by a car last year while firing a stun gun at the driver. This is what these guys are facing. And if you've been to any of these absurd protests against ICE, it takes you about 30 seconds to realize that these people are just unhinged. They're absolutely wonky. They don't get it. Because if they did, they would recognize that ICE agents are, they're getting rid of people that shouldn't be here. How many million people did Biden let into the country? And now the Democrats are upset that some of those people are getting tossed. So their voter base is going away. They don't really care about people in the community. They just don't. Let's take a look at this one. Let's go down to here. Now, see if I can get this is ICE agent. I believe he's an ICE agent, Jonathan Ross. His arm, he had 20 stitches and he had to have a tourniquet put on it before because he was bleeding so badly. This is what happened to him in June of 2025, just a handful of months ago. And now he's getting smacked with a car. You want to get run over? No. If you're a law enforcement official and you're getting run over by a car, you might shoot to kill. Just saying. And that's what happened. And that's where these people that are out protesting need to understand, hey, you could do that, but it might not end up all that well for you. In this case, it did not, right? And I wasn't really able to understand why the guy that drove off his car in June with the ICE agent attached to the car, why he was even free. You know what I mean? Local officials let the stepdaughter rapist out because, he's an illegal. We got to let him go. Fly, little birdie, be free. And it's like, The guy just got convicted for horrific acts against his 16-year-old stepdaughter. Is that who Democrats are protecting? Is that literally who Democrats are protecting? I guess so. Convicted sex offender illegally present in the country assaults federal officer during immigration arrest. On June 17th, 2025, multiple federal agencies attempted to effectuate an administrative warrant for Munoz's arrest due to lack of legal status in the U.S. Officers and agents, clearly identified as police, pulled Munoz over for a traffic stop. Munoz repeatedly refused to comply with commands from law enforcement officers to lower the windows and open the doors. Officers told Munoz they would take a break. They would break a window. These people just don't listen, right? When the ERO officer's arm was inside the car, Munoz put the vehicle in drive. Munoz drove onto the curb and accelerated at a high rate of speed. The ERO officer's arm was caught. That's how he got it cut up. As Munoz drove, the ERO officer was dragged in the moving vehicle. Officer twice fired his taser at Munoz, who got him to stop. Munoz was undeterred. He continued driving away as the officer screamed. I mean, this is what these guys are, this is what they are facing when they are trying to keep our communities safe. Horrific. And you've got Katie Wilson going, it makes zero sense whatsoever. Your officer suffered a significant cut to his right arm that required 20 stitches to close. He suffered a significant cut to his left hand that required 13 stitches. The officer also suffered abrasions to his left knee, elbows, and face because he was drugged 300 feet down the road by a child rapist. And that is who the Democrats want to protect. Make that make sense. How does that make sense in any world whatsoever? It doesn't. This is your city. Yeah. And the ICE agents are making it better. They're cleaning up some of the riffraff that shouldn't be here. Now, I don't think they've released the identities of who they were going after in the raid where the woman got capped. I couldn't find that information anywhere. Seattle mayor says city will push back after ICE activity, Minneapolis killing. Why? Why are you pushing back? That is so backwards, right? That's just, I mean, it's phenomenal that you actually believe that. And you know what? I mean, you can't convince me you actually believe this is the direction you want to go. But, that's kind of what we're doing. She called the incident an abuse of power by who? You know what I mean? Law enforcement's going in to do their job. How many people did Obama deport? 3 million? Wasn't he a Democrat? Yeah, it's just that you had Joe Biden absolutely open up the southern border and allow millions and millions of people to pour in. 10 million, 12 million, 15 million, who knows? We don't even really know. There were so many gotaways during that period, right? In her statement, Wilson described Good as a poet, a caring neighbor, and a mother that is now dead because she made terrible decisions and didn't understand the gravity of what she was fucking around with. And now she's dead. The left doesn't seem to understand that actions have consequences, and sometimes you pay dearly for them. Dearly. With your life. And that's what happened in this incident. Because if they weren't out there monkeying around, trying to, weasel in on an ICE deportation of a criminal illegal, she'd be alive. She'd be alive. Right? She wouldn't have just been randomly shot. She wasn't randomly shot. She ran in to law enforcement with her car. Pretty simple. These are not abstractions, Wilson said, adding that many people in Seattle are frightened and outraged by the way ICE and other federal agencies are being deployed nationwide. Why are they being deployed? Because we've let millions of criminal illegals into our country, and now you're going to have the opposite end of that, which is cleaning up the riffraff, deporting them, and Democrats are really worked up because they were counting on this for their voter base. Not good. Not good. So, Vice President J.D. Vance on Thursday defended the officer involved and blamed what he called a left-wing network. Democrats and the news media as protests over the killing spread to cities across the country. Yeah, we're going to see a whole bunch of that. And you know what? Nobody really cares because you know what? No kings doesn't really go anywhere, has zero overall impact. The vast majority of people understand that who ICE is going after are people like we read about in this story who have unwanted sexual contact with their own stepchildren. Those kinds of people. That's who's getting deported. I mean, that is literally in this story. Vance said that he was not concerned about prejudging the investigation and claimed Good accelerated her vehicle into the officer, which she did. She could have easily put her car in park, gun like this, and not tried to drive off against the orders of the law enforcement agent. She did the polar opposite of what you're supposed to do when a law enforcement agent says, hey, get out of the car. Stop your car. But, you know, these Democrats, these far lefties think that you don't really have to obey the police anymore. Unfortunately, actions have consequences. And here we are. I don't want to see anybody get killed. I don't. It's unnecessary. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, got to remember, he's the guy that cried after Fentanyl Floyd died. Said video of the incident undermines claims the officer acted in self-defense. Well, we just watched video of that, didn't we? Yeah. Do you think that was self-defense? Yeah. I mean, did he get hit? Certainly looks that way, does it not? Calling those arguments garbage? Well, Jacob Frey, I think your head is up your ass, but, you know, we're all entitled to our opinion. President Donald Trump and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem have also described the shooting as justified self-defense. 100% agreed. And you got to send a message to these nut jobs out there doing just crazy stuff. Hey, you know what? You can't disobey law enforcement. It's there for a reason. They're trying to clean up your community, let them do their job, and take your asses and go home. But that's not what we're doing because, oh my gosh, they're getting rid of our voter base. This is horrible. The video released publicly has raised questions about that account. So let's go ahead and watch Katie Wilson's video again in light of what we just discussed, and we'll see how it sounds this time.
Yesterday, armed ICE agents in an unmarked vehicle detained 3 North Seattle neighbors at Evergreen Washelli Cemetery.
And what were their crimes? We don't really know, do we? They're not just guys walking around, blowing dandelions into the wind. These guys have been targeted for a reason because they are criminal illegals and they should be deported. Why are you concerned about people being deported when they are criminal and illegal? I mean, these guys are doing a job. They're doing a service to the community, and you are worked up about, oh, my word. I mean, when somebody murders another person, civilian on civilian, do you expect law enforcement to just go, oh, yeah, No, you don't. You don't. You expect them to arrest him and get him the heck out of there, right?
I am furious at the federal government's abuse of power. It is.
So deporting criminal illegals is an abuse of power. People that shouldn't be here is an abuse of power. All right. I mean, that fits into your leftist socialist, ideology and this whole oppressor thing, right? It fits into that, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. You know what? I wouldn't want to be. That's just. It's not a side that you want to be on. That's the loser side. You're a loser if you want to be on that side, because it doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? It's
unacceptable to kidnap people who are simply going about their lives.
Like our earlier example of Munoz. Yeah, he was just going about his life having sex with his 16-year-old stepdaughter. You mean like that? Like that. just like that. You're okay with a guy just banging his 16-year-old stepdaughter repeatedly? That's not the world that I live in. These people being deported are not just randomly walking around doing their jobs, whatever, and get scooped up. That's not the case. We just went through that. As an example, directly related to this story.
There is no place for this in Seattle.
I agree. Having criminal illegals that are doing this kind of stuff, there is no place for that in Seattle. Bring more ICE agents. Bring them to Seattle. Bring them to Seattle. Bring them on.
This latest abuse comes on the heels of the murder of Renee Nicole Good in Minneapolis by federal agents. Renee was a poet.
Who cares? Who cares? She did something she shouldn't have been doing, and she got capped. That's just how this goes. I hate to sound cruel. I hate to say sound uncaring, but that is a hardcore reality. And that's where people on the left, they just don't get that, again, actions have consequences. And if you cross that line, you might get spanked. And unfortunately, our poet here got spanked forever.
A caring neighbor and a mother. Someone with a family whose community is now grieving unimaginable loss.
And they didn't need to be, because she could have simply turned off her ignition, put the car in park, and gotten out of the car. But she didn't choose to do that, did she? No, she didn't do that. And I haven't heard one single person on the left state why that wasn't an option or why she didn't do that. You know what I mean? Why didn't she do that? Well, because she lives in Minneapolis and she thought she was going to get away with it, because all of these big blue cities think that you can just run over the top of law enforcement, and then they come up against the feds and they're like, oh my gosh. It's this real disconnect you got going on with reality. F around and find out. And she did, unfortunately, and found out the hard way, the permanent way.
These are not abstractions. These are real people, real families, and real harm.
And so is the 16-year-old stepdaughter. Those are the kind of people that I want to see protected by deporting these criminal illegals.
I know many people in our community are frightened and outraged about the way ICE and other federal enforcement agencies are being deliberately deployed across the country to intimidate and harm our communities.
Where's the harm? What harm is being done? Yeah, that's nonsense.
I am heartbroken and outraged too. This moment demands action. Here's what we're doing. Seattle is a welcoming city. We already have laws in place that forbid our local police from aiding ICE in most instances. The police will adhere to these.
And that is absolutely mentally challenged. Impeding law enforcement? What is wrong with you? That is just shameful. I mean, it's just shameful. Who does that? Like, literally, who does that? I mean, you've got mayors and governors in red run states actually working with law enforcement, right? Right? I mean, it's kind of like when Joe Biden said, well, if we just had some legislation, we could really secure the southern border. And then he got booted out because, he was literally lost his mind. And at the last minute, Kamala Harris jumped in. And then when Donald Trump won, hey, weird, come to find out, with some executive orders and actually enforcing the law like ICE is doing now, illegal entry by criminal illegals has been reduced, 95%? You didn't need legislation. You just needed to enforce the law like law enforcement is doing right now, like ICE is doing right now. They're doing their job. That is literally what you need to see happen.
Laws. That's an important step. But it's also true that we have limited authority with regard to the actions of federal agencies.
You have none. You have none. Feds always trump local. Period. As much of this grandstanding as you want to do, it ain't going anywhere. It's going to get you a big fat goose egg. In fact, it's going to get a target on Seattle. Seattle's already got enough of a target on it by having a bunch of Somalians who are probably committing daycare fraud. I mean, we've had Jonathan Cho and Cam Higby kind of go, oh, this doesn't look good. And everybody else is like, yep, this doesn't look good. Bring on the feds. Bring on the feds.
And I know that our existing laws are not enough to keep people safe. So I'm working with Police Chief
Safe from who? Again, the dude that, has his way with his 16-year-old stepdaughter, keeping those people safe? I thought we wanted to keep the stepdaughter safe. I don't know. I'm confused here. So where are you going with this? You know what I mean? Where are you going with this? And anytime you go to one of these rallies, these people talk just a bunch of nonsense. It's literally gobbledygook. It's gobbledygook. Because we have gone from, it has been laughable. The left's attempt to, go up against Elon Musk because all of a sudden they loved his cars, then they didn't love his cars because of Doge. Well, come to find out, Doge was about fraud, like we're seeing in Minneapolis, like we're seeing in Seattle. And ICE is coming in to clean up some of that, right? Got 2,000 agents in Minneapolis right now. 2,000 ICE agents and Department of Homeland Security, I think, or HHS agents to clean up what's been obviously 8-10 years of fraud with a Democrat mayor, Democrat governor. I mean, it's laughable.
Barnes, City Attorney Evans, immigrant rights groups, and local leaders to identify every possible legal argument, public resource, and creative tool we can use to keep the people of Seattle safe. This will take all of us. I urge you to sign up for the Washington for All ICE mobilization alerts. And don't stop there. I encourage you to raise your voices and demand that every elected official does what they can to actually protect the people who make our neighborhoods home.
Who actually protect to make our neighborhoods home. Well, that is literally what ICE is doing. Making sure criminals are getting tossed. How basic is that? And yet you can't understand that because politically you don't want to. And I get that. It's not your side. It's not your side. This doesn't work out well politically for you. Kamala Harris is going to have a heck of a time running for office in 2028 when she had that whole vetting issue with Tampon Tim. I mean, that's going to be a difficult one to explain. Hey, Tampon Tim, you've known about this for 8-10 years, and yet you didn't do anything about all of the massive, massive billions and billions of dollars of fraud in your community. And Kamala Harris, your team didn't vet Tampon Tim well enough to know that this is going on? Or, oh, hey, maybe you did. Maybe you did. But you know what? I encourage Kamala Harris to run because when she does, she'll suck just enough votes away from podcaster Newsom that the Republicans can run Donald Duck and he'd win. So bring it on, right?
This is a scary situation. And situations like this are when we show ourselves who we are and what we believe.
Unfortunately, I believe that's probably correct. Yeah. Oh, not good.
In Seattle, we practice solidarity. Everyone should be safe in their homes.
Solidarity. I wonder what the 16-year-old stepdaughter would say about that. I'm just saying.
In their workplaces and in their city. My message to our immigrant neighbors, this is your city. You should be safe here, and I'm determined to make it that way.
So is ICE. So is ICE. So all this fear-mongering about what ICE is doing is just absolutely absurd. It just is. It's just nonsense. It's nonsense. It's a shame that woman had to die, but she kind of, things happen when you don't follow authority and you decide to just get in your car. And, even her wife was trying to get in the car to, hop in and go. I mean, who does that? When a law enforcement officer tells you to stop, you stop on a dime and go, okay, all right. Because that's what you need to do. These people didn't. One of them's dead. There you go. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next episode. Love to have you subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.